that they will never be able to pick up their little girl or little boy again. This day is such a somber day. Ramos, this kid Ramos is 18 years old. Let me see what his name is. His name is Salvador Ramos. He's 18 years old. He lives in Texas. He lives kind of close to the Mexican border. Um, some of the news reports were trying to link that to the shooting. I don't think that is the reason for the shooting. I think this kid was just mentally sick, period. Um, he he on his 18th birthday purchased two firearms on his birthday when he turned 18. And so that speaks to me in my mind that he had already planned this out. I believe also seeing the shooting that happened in New York gave him the extra ammunition or the extra gumption to carry out this tragedy that he another thing that is being reported is that he messaged an unknown girl or woman online on his Facebook telling her he was intending to carry out this tragedy. So he already had planned it, he communicated it to someone, and then unfortunately he did. First thing he did was he shot his grandma. There are allegations that she's hanging on for dear life. There's other allegations that she's passed away, so I don't know the full details. This was last posted, this was last updated at 1851 Pacific time. So I think that's like 9 o'clock, 9:51. So I don't know if how she's doing now. I hope she makes it through. But it's just so sad. I mean, he plans this all out, communicates it, heads to the school with these two firearms. He crashes his car. Then he walks into the school, carries out this tragedy. He ends up killing 21 people, you guys. 19 of them were kids. Two of them, I believe, were teachers. So, I mean, this day is so sad. And you guys have heard of that other shooting at another elementary school many, many years ago. And it's like repeating it again. And just, it's so horrific. And in this tragedy, after he carried out this massive massacre, the officers ended up, killing him. So let's look into the story. You guys tell me what you think. This was just really sad. But let's talk about it. It's pretty sad too, also seeing some of the videos, seeing parents coming to the school crying, hoping to see their kid, and having to wait, hoping and praying that, it's not their children that was taken, their life was taken. So Ramos, he headed to Robb Elementary School after he shoots his grandma with two assault rifles. And this was in Uvalde, Texas. That's near the Mexican border, close over there. So he takes these two rifles around 11:32 in the morning after shooting his grandmother. He does have an Instagram. I'm not sure if this is his Instagram. You guys know how these things go. When there's someone who commits a massacre on this magnitude, then there's a bunch of people that want to create these fake Instagrams. So who knows if this is his current one. And as you guys already know, law enforcement tries to get the actual Instagram taken down once people do this so that they can, I don't know what they do their investigation, whatever they do, but I always notice shortly thereafter they take these Instagrams down. So it's just sad. Let's proceed to see what happened. We'll go into the details. So in Uvalde, Texas, a teen shooter opened fire at Texas elementary school. This is so sad. Just reading this makes me sad, you guys. Killing as many as 19 kids. This was even more tragic than the New York shooting. And two adults. Salvador, 18, was subsequently shot and he passed away by police officers. Ramos reportedly headed to Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with two assault rifles around 11:30 a.m. after shooting his grandmother. This is just, wonder what is in these kids' minds to make them do such tragedies. At least another 15 kids, two adults, and two officers who responded to the shooting were injured during the mayhem. So that's crazy, you guys. 21 people lives were taken. But that's not it. 15 kids and two additional adults, additional 15 additional kids and two additional adults are injured. This was a significant massacre, you guys. This was, I don't know, this is crazy. And I think he was able to accomplish this on the magnitude that he did was because he had the two assault rifles. So he could accomplish more with two weapons versus one. Oh, this is so sad, you guys. 14 kids and one adult with minor injuries were taken to Uvalde Medical Center. The hospital CEO, Tom Norwood, told New York Post some of the injured had already been released. Okay, so some are okay, while some others have been transferred to hospitals in San Antonio. A girl, 10 years old, and a woman, 66, were taken to the University Health San Antonio, the only level 1 trauma center for both adults and children in the region, in critical condition. So the sad thing is, when this first developed, you guys, it was 14 kids and I think it was like two adults. And then the number jumped up. So it's like we're still kind of waiting, to see what happens because some of these people are in critical condition. So we don't know if they're going to pull through or not. So just keep praying for these families. It's so sad. And the thing is, we're going to continue to see so many more of these. I'm not trying to speak negative, but it just seems like after the pandemic and now everything's opening up and there's a lot of people battling and going through, a crisis, a mental health crisis, just things that they're going through. There just a lot of just horrific things are happening. It's just very, very, very dark time. And it makes sense because, 2 years in the pandemic and then now 2022, everything's opening up. Everybody's going to school, different places. It just creates this very dramatic atmosphere for, sick people like this, sociopaths like this, psychopaths like this to create these grandiose massacres, as sad as it is. So police officials from the Texas Department of Public Safety, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and various other local agencies responded to the deadly shooting in the small town located about 60 miles east of the Mexican border. I don't know what relevance that was. I think they were trying to tie it to say that someone came in and did it, but no, the boy was an American citizen. So I don't think the location per se was really relevant or correlated to why he did what he did. I just think this kid was sick in the head and he planned this thing out long before, and he took the steps to do that. He took the strategic steps to do that. He purchased the two firearms on his birthday, thereby, making this plan. He, in my opinion, chose this location. It's really unclear why he chose this elementary school because he didn't go to the school. It doesn't seem he had a connection to the school. He didn't go to his school. I mean, he should have did it, period. But I mean, it's just weird that did he just choose a random school? I don't know. It's just kind of odd that he just chose an elementary school that he didn't have ties to. Texans across the state are grieving for the victims of this senseless crime, and the community of Uvalde. Governor Greg Abbott said in a statement, "Cecilia and I mourn this horrific loss, and we urge all Texans to come together to show our unwavering support to all who are suffering. We thank the courageous first responders who worked to finally secure Robb Elementary School." This shooting, you guys, is one of the most deadliest shootings in U.S. history. In U.S. history. That is insane. Wow. And it is. He was able to accomplish so much. That's why I feel like he really planned this out. He knew that he needed to get two firearms to accomplish, the amount of damage he wanted to do on this large scale. As tragic as it is, I think he really thought this thing out because with those two firearms, he did some significant damage. Wow. Oh my gosh, this is so sad. So the incident brings to mind two other similar shootings, one at Sandy Hook Elementary. If you guys remember that one happened in Connecticut, where 20 first graders and 6 educators were killed in 2012, and another where 32 people were killed in Virginia Tech in 2007. So, 3 different school shootings in the last few decades. And you know what's interesting is America is the only country that tends to have these shootings, and we have to ask why. It's a touchy subject that a lot of us don't want to discuss because a lot of people have the issue with limitations on the right to bear arms. They want free access to guns, and that can be problematic. And the other side of it is too lenient on punishments. I think the punishments in this country is just so soft. I mean, we just let criminals get away with so much. And so because there's not much incentives to really not do things like this, and because there's so much availability to firearms and easy access. I mean, this kid was 18. He probably, and he's in Texas, so you know Texas, they literally everybody has a firearm. Shoot, I probably kids walking there with firearms. Who knows? Who knows? You know, but they always have so much easy access to these firearms with no full assessment. And I get it. Our Constitution gives us the right to bear arms, but it comes at a cost with these shootings and massacres, as tragic as it is. Because if you look at other countries, you don't hear about this. You don't hear in China, massive shooting, or in Spain, or not in Spain, sorry. In London, massive massacre. Guys, you know, you don't hear that. We only hear it in US. So there's something that we're doing wrong. And we have all these politicians always putting on a theatrical show, talking about how we need to stop the killings and whoop de whoop de whoop. They just put on this full show, you guys, and then they don't do anything about it. And you'll see one of those when I play this video for you guys. There's a politician, he gets on the news show and just puts on this grandiose show and display of drama, and he's not going to do anything about it. He's after this, the news goes away and this situation sadly quiets down. He's probably going to go back to just doing nothing. It's just, it's sad. It's tragic. So who is this guy? Let's learn a little bit about him. Salvador Ramos. They said he cryptically messaged a stranger. So he didn't know this girl. It was a lady, but he messaged this girl. She was around his age, and he said, "I'm about to." Basically, he was going to tell her what he's going to do. "I'm about to." Just hours before he went on the killing spree. I'm about to. I mean, that's kind of vague and ambiguous. I was going to say, you know, why didn't the girl call the police to be like, this person messaged me, you know, but "I'm about to" is kind of, you know, vague and ambiguous. What do you guys think? If someone messaged you that, would you have immediately called law enforcement, or what'd you have done in that situation? I was thinking if he like went into detail saying he was going to do something really drastic, I would have think she should have notified someone before this drama, tragedy, this horrible thing happened. But who knows? If he just said "I'm about to," that is kind of, you don't really know what that means. But hindsight 2020. So stranger said "I'm about to" just hours before he went on his killing spree. He attended the town's high school, which, as I told you guys, is kind of weird that he chose this elementary school. And, you know, usually when they do these shootings, I mean, except for the one we just talked about, the elementary one, usually it's like somebody did them wrong at the school, and so they go back to their particular school. But he didn't have any connections to the elementary school. I just think he didn't care who he was going to kill. I think he just wanted to find a place that was easy access, the most vulnerable person, like victims, which are kids, you know, they're harmless. And so that he could accomplish as many of taking as many lives as he could. That's what I think he was thinking, which is disgusting. At a press conference in Abilene, Abbott said that Ramos abandoned his car, but there are actually news reports that said that he crashed his car. And then he entered the school. There's actually surveillance showing him walking into the school, horrifically and incomprehensibly murdering several students and a teacher. He was then shot dead by responding officers. And again, you guys, there's some people still in critical condition. So we need to be in prayer because we don't know if what's going to happen, you know, if they're going to pull through. I pray they do, but, you know, just don't know. Texas State Senator Ronald Gutierrez reportedly said that the 2 assault rifles used in the massacre were bought by the shooter on his 18th birthday. Isn't that crazy? Ugh. I wonder if his grandmother saw the signs. Sometimes you can tell that, someone's going through a crisis, or, the way they talk, the way they act, different things like that. I wonder if she saw something like, anything that could have concerned her. Because sometimes we have these parents, like, for example, there was the case, trying to think of that case. Oh, the recent case where the boy, he went to shoot up his school, and his mother, they had a hearing, preliminary hearing, and some of the testimony showed that the mother was already going around telling her friend or someone that she had her horses at this lady's, like, I don't know, station, whatever. She had her horse over there, and she was friends with the lady, and she told the lady, she said her son was weird. She's like, my son doesn't have friends, and he's kind of weird. And also, even like within, I don't know, an hour or so before he shot up his school, she met with the counselor at the school, because the school said that he had drew this, like, disturbing picture of, like, imagining himself shooting up the school. And then the mother just laughed about it and texted him, said, you know, you got to be careful. You don't show him, or whatever. I don't know what her words were, but she was like, don't get caught, or something like that. I think that was like before he ultimately had to meet with his counselor and his parents. Like, I think the day before or whatever, or a week before, the teacher called and told him about the disturbing photo. And she was like laughing about it and was like, you got to be more careful. Don't get caught. And it's just like, if you see the signs, you need to do something, like get counseling for your kid. And if that doesn't work, some of these parents, you gotta just talk to law enforcement. I know they don't want to, parents don't want to do that, but to save the overall society. And that parent, in that case, she was very passive. Her and her husband were very passive. They were very, very kind of pro firearms, and they would take him out shooting a lot. But there were so many indicators in that situation that the parent should have did something, and they didn't. So bringing it back to this story, I wonder if the grandmother saw signs, or did she just overlook them? Who knows? I think the more we hear about the story, because you guys know they always study and they go deep into the story and they look into the person's life, they go into their house, they go into their social media. And I think once we get more details, we'll be able to see that this kid was very disturbed already. He may have lacked any, like, social interaction or social skills. He probably was a loner. And if he did have friends, not many, maybe have faced a lot of rejection in society. And so he took his anger out on the most vulnerable, because I believe he felt vulnerable and lost in this world. But let's see. So his grandmother, who was shot, and they say is not dead and is still holding on. Praise God. I hope that is true, because I heard some news reports saying she wasn't. So I hope this is true, that she's still hanging on, because when she gets better, maybe they could ask her, did she see any indicators? What could we look out for in the future? But Mule found several Instagram accounts with Ramos photos and could not independently verify which among them is the original profile of the shooter. New York Post found that one of the profiles tagged strangers on its photos. So that one was definitely a fake one. So the school, they just gave their condolences. This is the Robb Elementary School where the tragedy occurred. And on their Facebook, they just said, our community has experienced a terrible tragedy. We must come together to console one another and respect the privacy of the families. Please keep all the families in your prayers. School has been canceled for the rest of the school year. For our students, this includes all extra activities for Wednesday and Thursday. The graduation ceremony will be addressed at a later time. So it just makes me wonder, you guys, like, did the school have any security? How was he able to walk in so freely like that? I know for my schools, when I was in elementary school, or also in high school, there was a lot of security. You couldn't just come in. You couldn't just walk in on the streets. I remember even after graduating and I was going to walk in just to, like, visit some of my teachers, I had to go through all these protocols to get in, like, at the front. So I'm like, it just looks like on the surveillance that I saw, he just easily got into the school. There was no one like stopped him, questioned him or anything. He just roamed on in there all freely. So I wonder if we need more security at these schools, maybe like a school. I know school police officers, they need more school police officers at schools. I know a lot of schools don't have them. Some do, but they need to have that. I think that should be at every school. There should be law enforcement faculty at the school just to keep the schools safe. If there is actually law enforcement on campus at every school, if these shootings happen, there's law enforcement all the way already there. And they can just call and say, hey, I need backup. That'll be a quicker response. Whereas, no law enforcement. And then these people are just able to roam freely on campus like this kid did. But let's take a look at this news review and then we'll chat a little bit about or see what you guys have to say in the chat.
A horrifying pattern. Once again, school children gunned down by one man, firing a handgun, possibly a long gun, murdering kids in grades 2, 3, and 4 at school. This time in Uvalde, Texas, a small city. Parents scrambling to get information to find their young sons and daughters in the chaos, or trying to absorb the shock that their kids may be gone forever.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we will need your prayers to get us through this.
Robb Elementary was surrounded by investigators. The suspected shooter is dead, possibly killed by police. He lived in Uvalde, says the Texas governor.
The shooter was Salvador Ramos, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed.
Multiple reports say Ramos shot his grandmother before driving towards the school. A state senator says he legally bought 2 assault rifles on his 18th birthday. But still unknown, what triggered a young man to murder kids in class, and why does it keep happening?
This only happens in this country and nowhere else. Nowhere else do little kids go to school thinking that they might be shot that day. Nowhere else do parents have to talk to their kids, as I have had to do, about why they got locked into a bathroom and told to be quiet for 5 minutes just in case a bad man entered that building. Nowhere else does that happen except here in the United States of America, and it is a choice. It is our choice to let it continue.
Flags in Washington.
See, that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about. These politicians do this all the time. You see the drama and the fireworks and how he just did this grandiose, theatrical, dramatic show of fake passion. They do this all the time. They get on the stage and they yell and scream about change. And then after things calm down, we go back to our day-to-day, mundane process, and then this happens again another month later or a year later or whatever, every other month later. That's what I'm saying. Like, we need politicians and people that are actually going to do something, like make more stricter punishment, I think. Stricter punishment, or they do need more, I think, restrictions in terms of who gets firearms, like a mental health assessment, maybe even raise the age. I mean, this kid right at 18 was able to buy a firearm. Did they do a health assessment to make sure he wasn't going through any mental health crisis? I doubt it. Texas, they have such easy access and easy capabilities to get firearms versus some states like California. I know California has a stricter guidelines to get firearms, although even with those strict parameters, I think California has the most strict gun laws in, I believe, in the United States. Even their strict gun laws don't really, I believe, really have an effective resolution to the issue, because their punishment laws are extremely lenient. I mean, they don't even have gang law strikes anymore. I mean, people who are in gangs don't even get strikes for that. And just a recent criminal case where there was gang-related shootout, there's at least 3 victims that were gang members of that shooting, and they're not going to prosecute for those deaths because they're gang members. So it's like, come on, you do stuff like that and you create incentives to keep breaking the law. So the question is, what do we do? Constitution gives us right to bear arms. Do we put a little bit of limitation on that? Republicans don't like that. So it's a touchy subject, controversial issue. I'll leave that for you guys to say. But I'm just saying we have these politicians like this gentleman giving us this beautiful Hollywood dramatic display of passion, but I guarantee you he will not do anything about it. He'll just keep screaming until he's blue in the face and then go back to regular day in the park. I think they just do it for, the news to like make, the people who vote for them believe that they're going to do something, but I don't see them doing anything. So that was just an example I wanted to stop and talk to you guys about.
Washington were lowered again for the second time in 2 weeks. President Biden condemned a mass shooting.
As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done?
But America seems powerless to curtail gun violence. At least 30 shootings in U.S. schools so far this year.
Susan, this is a developing story. What more have you managed to find out?
Well, we now know that gunman crashed his truck into a ditch or a gully near the school and got out of the vehicle wearing body armor, carrying an assault rifle and a backpack. And there was some shooting before he headed towards the school, which raises a question about whether that elementary school was his intended target. We also know, of course, most of the victims are children, grades 2, 3, and 4, but among those victims was their 4th grade teacher.
Susan Ormiston, thank you very much.
So sad, you guys. Ugh. Sheesh, my heart is broken, guys. So broken. So it's like, in America, we have so much freedom and privilege. But with that freedom and privilege comes consequences like this, with these tragic situations of the mass shooting. So what do you guys think about this tragic story? It's so sad. My heart has been sad trying to work through the day, my files, and I'm like, oh, this is so sad. What do you guys think? So a witness said he was angry because he didn't graduate. Oh, really? He got into an argument with his grandmother prior to shooting her. Oh, interesting. So do you think this was more impulsive and then he just immediately thereafter contacts that random person on Facebook to say what he's going to do? I think that was, it's just interesting though. Gemini, is that Gemini? It's interesting though, Gemini, that he bought the 2 firearms at age 18. It was like he was itching for the 18th birthday to buy these firearms. And I'm wondering what was the whole thing. And when people have firearms, it gives them this extra push to be aggressive. For example, if people ride in the car, if they have a CCW, for example, well, I know that's one of the things they have in California. And anytime they have a possession of a firearm too, sometimes it gives people extra aggression. They become even more aggressive because it emboldens them, when they have the firearm. So that could make sense, Gemini, that if he didn't graduate and then his grandmother is kind of lecturing him about it, the firearm's right there, it kind of emboldens the person to act aggressively and impulsively. The weird part is, though, Gemini, is why did he extend his anger towards innocent kids at a random elementary school that I don't think he had any connection to? It's just that part, to me, the logic there. That's why I feel like, oh yeah, you're right. If this person says he said what he said, but I don't know, Gemini. You might be right. Both parents are in jail now. Oh yeah, they are, Brenda. They are, as they should, Brenda, as they should be, because they had that firearm readily accessed. They had access right there for him to get the firearm, and they didn't do anything to stop him. Like they knew, they had all the forewarnings. First they got a call from the teacher, I think. Then they got a call from the counselor, and then I think that was within an hour or so, shortly before. I don't even know if it was within an hour. They were at the school and they could have took him home, and they didn't. They just left. It was just, they knew this was going to happen, because even the father called after the shooting was occurring. And he was like, I think my son, he called 911, was like, I think my son is the shooter. I'm like, see, so you knew your son was going to do this. because you knew you had mental health issues and you didn't do anything about it. So yeah, parents need to be held accountable also. This case is different because he is an adult. You know, he's young adult because he's 18, but and he purchased the firearm, so legally in possession of the firearm. The question is, did he have any mental health struggles also that was in combination that made it him more impulsive? You know, he had more of an impulsive, reactive type, aggressive type nature about him before this incident happened with, you know, maybe not graduating and, you know, having that altercation or, you know, disagreement with his grandmother. Was he already kind of an aggressive type person already? So hopefully we'll learn more about his demeanor, how he was. Yeah, it is very sad. I can't pronounce your name, Dontavius. Yeah, it's very sad. Yeah, my heart is broken too, Beatrice. My heart is broken. His girlfriend stated she was going to finish the job. She was going to finish the job? Oh my gosh, they're both sick. He was trying to make an impact. Yeah, pretty horrible impact. Because no one took him seriously. Yeah, that's true. Sometimes they don't feel heard, but that doesn't, you know, there's something deeper going on, you know. It wasn't a show of fake passion. The Democrats have proposed a bill that would enhance background checks. The Republicans refused to sign it. Oh, okay, Gemini. Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for clarifying that, Gemini. I didn't know that. I'll look more into that and see if they actually are going. They did. So if they actually proposed a bill, Gemini, I will retract my statement. It's just I've seen this so many times, Gemini. And so I guess I get frustrated and probably just loosely applied it to this scenario because I've seen it so many times and nothing has been done. But you're right, the Republicans they do habitually refuse to sign these and don't agree, and so that's why they don't get passed. So that's true. Thank you for giving your input. He probably knew he wasn't graduating. Yeah. Prior to his birthday. True. That's what I was saying. He went and bought that firearm because he was anticipating this. I really do think. Hopefully we'll find out more about him. The God and Statute Word coach spoke about it at a press conference. Oh, you know, Jim and I haven't really been, I didn't get to look at all the details yet. Hi, Eliza. Hi, Eliza and Nathaniel. How are you? Yeah, I didn't go look into all the details of the bill and everything, so I'll take a look at it. Thank you so much, Gemini, for letting me know. I'll look more into it. But you are right. Even though the Democrats do try to propose these bills, yes, the Republicans will continually strike them down, which means the problem will never get solved. It won't, because both sides are at odd, and it takes two sides basically to try to join together to resolve the issue. And because the Republicans don't want to, they definitely don't want any restrictions. You know, they don't want any restrictions on firearms. But that's why it's going to continue to happen, because we're going to have all these people who have these, impulsive type ill will natures to purchase these firearms freely, especially in states like Texas that don't have much requirements. You can just go on your 18th birthday and purchase a firearm. If they keep continually doing this, we will continue to see these tragedies. As if you guys been watching my videos, I was telling you guys before that this was going to be a pretty dark year. I usually am very optimistic and I don't like to speak negative, but I already knew it was going to be a dark year because the end of the pandemic, people were in the house, people were suffering a lot of mental health struggles. People respond to mental health complications in different ways. Some self-conclusions, some react in violence and aggression towards themselves, some react in violent aggression towards others, as you see in this situation. So these are people displaying their struggles, mental struggles in different ways. So it's just so sad. It just brings us back to the topic of mental health that, if you or know anyone or if you are struggling with mental health, definitely get the help you need immediately. If you know and you see any signs that anyone around you is struggling with a mental battle, or if you have questions or concerns, try to reach out to them and try to see if you can help them get the help they need. Or if it's to the point where you just realize there is no way out, you may have to report it to law enforcement if it's like to the last point where you just see that there's nothing you know, the person's not going to change, and they're planning this huge massacre, try to immediately notify the authorities, you know. So that's really all it's going to take is us joining together. And it's really sad because the incident that happened in New York with the guy that killed um, the 10 black individuals, he basically wrote his manifesto. It was freely accessible everywhere. Law enforcement did nothing. I mean, what were they doing? I don't know what they were doing. They could clearly see that this guy had problems, and they didn't do anything. So it's like that's their problem too. But let me know what you guys think about this. All right, take care.